Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Amazing Seller Podcast. This is episode number 399, and today you may notice there's a little bit more energy in the room, if that's even possible, but there is, and for good reason. I'm inviting my good friend on the show today who knows a lot about energy and delivering that energy to a massive audience. Also about mindset and how it really does contribute to success in business and in life balance, all of that stuff. And his name is JB Glossinger. And I was recently introduced to him. We soon became really close friends. I met him actually at Seller Summit at Steve Chu's event. So thank you, Steve, for allowing me to come and speak. And then in return, I was able to meet someone like JB Glossinger who has impacted my life in a huge way. And I'm now able to then transfer that over to the Amazing Seller community. And also, I want to give a little shout out to Jeff Cohen, who introduced me to JB. Now, JB is not an Amazon seller. He's not an FBA seller. He's not a private labeler. What he is a life coach. He's been doing this now for over 10 years, probably closer to 15 years. I don't know the exact number. I just know he's been podcasting about it for over 10 years, which I didn't even know podcasting was happening back then. And wait till you hear how he kind of got started down that road. But I wanted to invite him on. Number one, he's high energy. He's always about, he's always talking about like getting the energy high so then you build off of that energy and then you take that into your day. So that's what's going to happen today. That's definitely going to happen today. But I wanted to get him on and really talk about how to create a successful mindset that allows us and you to win. And I always kind of talk now about this business as like a game. And that's what I think we should kind of treat it as, right? It's kind of like we're playing a game. We're in a football game and we're going to run a play, or we're in a soccer game. We're going to run a play, or baseball, whatever, right? We put these plays into the game and we see what happens. But mindset, if you have the right mindset, if you know how to really condition your mind, that can really help you overcome some fears about maybe not even wanting to try it, right? Or if something fails and then you being able to switch that to say, that's okay. That was just a play I ran. I'm going to run another one. And he's really good. JB is really good at this stuff. And I really wanted to invite him on to dig really deep into this area because I know it'll help you. All right. So this is episode 399. Episode 400 is coming soon. I can't believe that either. And that's going to be a killer episode. So can't wait to share that with you. But morningcoach.com is where JB Glossinger podcasts every single day, by the way, 7 days a week, which is crazy. And he is really focusing on helping people build a better life and a better business. So definitely check out morningcoach.com. But before you do, I want you to listen to this awesome conversation. I don't even say it's an interview. It was a conversation. It was just a great time hanging out with my good friend JB about life in general and about business and mindset and all of that stuff. And you're going to walk away with some stuff that you can apply to your life right now. All right. So episode 399, theamazingseller.com/399. You can grab the show notes, the transcripts. And then also I'm going to drop his book in there as well. He didn't ask me to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I actually picked up the hard copy because I love a physical book in my hand, even though I like to audio read a book, or audio listen, I guess is what you would say. But I always like to also get the hard copy just to have on my bookshelf. And I actually do read every now and then. So I do have his book. Actually, it's one of the books I'm going through right now, and it's called The Sacred Six. Great book. All right, so enough getting you guys excited about my next guest here, JB Glossinger. Let's go ahead and dig in. I can't wait for you to hear this. I think you guys are going to get a ton of value. So sit back, relax, and get ready to change your mindset so you can win at this game of life and business. Well, hey, JB, thank you so much for being on the podcast. What's up, man?
Super pumped to be here, brother. Excited to be here.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I'm talking to you now, and I'm going to tell people a little bit about how we got introduced to each other, but I've been listening to your podcast, and your intro, man, gets me fired up.
That's what it's about, man. That good morning, right?
Yes. You keep that note really pinned. And I'm thinking, if that's early in the morning, man, I might be cracking on that note.
Oh, it's crazy. And I do it every day. I've done it for 10 years, if you can imagine. And I don't pre-record my pre-roll. Like, that's done live every time that I do it.
That is awesome, man. Yeah. So, all right, just to get people caught up really quickly, I was at Seller Summit. Actually, Jeff Cohen was there. I was hanging out with him, and he was like, I'm friends with this guy. He's been podcasting since the beginning of time, as far as podcasting goes, and I really think you should meet him. I'm going to invite him down. Do you mind? Hang out, have a drink, whatever. And I'm like, no, let's bring him down. And then you came over, and the rest is history. We just hit it off, man. I mean, we just had an amazing talk, discussion. We had dinner together. It was just awesome. And I wanted to get you on the show because you are the official morning coach. So, man, I just want to say thanks for coming on.
No problem, brother. I'm excited to be here. And I agree with you. We just hit it off because, we're putting the energy out there and we got to keep doing it. That's what it's about.
Absolutely, man. And so, okay, so your whole thing, I kind of want to go back because a lot of people might be listening and going, okay, so this whole mindset thing, like a lot of people, they kind of just throw that to the side and they go, yeah, I know that that's kind of a thing, but isn't everybody talking about that? And is it really that important? I just want to know the tactics and the strategy in order to make a lot of money online. Like that's generally the mindset of people. And the reason why I wanted to have you on is because you've been doing this now for years where it's all about mindset and it's all about like just creative thinking and just a whole different philosophy when it comes to whether it's business, whether it's life, whatever. So what I want to do here is, number one, I want you to give people a little bit of a background of who you are, where you came from, that whole thing. But I also want to really dive in. And the reason why I wanted to have you on is to help me, our audience, everyone that's listening, get over those self-doubts, those things that enter our brain. I had a guy on the other day that called it head trash, like all of these things. I want you to be able to maybe help us kind of get through those times and also maybe give us some exercises to kind of get ourselves, kind of moving forward when we're getting into this entrepreneurship, because it can be a little bit of a scary road, to be honest with you, when you're kind of starting out and you're starting to doubt yourself. So first off, who is JB? Who is he?
I'd love to start that way. I'm just this guy from Indiana, honestly. I'm a dude from Indiana that, went into corporate and thought I, wasn't very intelligent when I was 28. I went through 3 colleges and wanted to party and meet girls. That's what I wanted to do. And yeah, it was crazy. It was a fun time, but I thought that when I graduated from college, everybody should pay me millions of dollars because I was so smart. Of course, that didn't happen, right? I had to go into the workforce, and I was still thinking people needed to pay me millions of dollars, but I didn't get it. And I just, got into a career. I ran health clubs for a while. I mean, just hustled and started an MBA at night.
Wow.
Started trying to get some education and answered an ad in a newspaper for a company that was hiring a helicopter repair salesperson to sell helicopter engine repairs.
Really?
Yeah, and I wrote a letter. It's kind of funny. I wrote a letter to the president, and the president, this is a story he told me later, he took it into Dwight, who was actually my boss, and said, I don't know who this kid is. He can't write, but we need to talk to him. And so they had me in and interviewed me, and I actually took the job. And for about 15 years, I was in aviation, bouncing around companies to companies. Yeah, I ended up buying and selling aircraft. So it was pretty crazy. I learned my sales skills and busted my chops, in aviation for years. And then eventually a headhunter found me and wanted me to kind of help with a company here in South Florida. So I moved from Arizona to South Florida and helped them transition. They had a gentleman that had brain cancer that was running the company. And I came in to kind of help that transition. And over that period, I was trying to make money. I mean, to be blunt, I wanted a lifestyle.
Sure.
And I had got to the point where I was on the board of directors making high 6 figures, but was miserable. Traveling all over, really the dream job. We had gotten married. My wife's Colombian, awesome, Pilar, I love her to death. But I was miserable. I was bringing us all down. And I thought, there's got to be something else I can do. I'd listen to Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar. I thought I had the right mindset. In fact, I did. Like, I got to the top of the food chain in the corporate world. But I actually got mad at myself because I was like, look, you're from Indiana. Your parents are blue collar. They worked in factories. You're running a company. You don't have a right to be frustrated. It was really dark time. I was like, but I am frustrated. And I used to beat myself up from that. But I went back to my personal development stuff and said, hey, you know what? These guys did it. I'm going to write a book, become a bestseller, and change people's lives. So I wrote a book, quit my job, and fell flat on my face.
Okay.
And then another intelligent moment was to quit my job. Well, and this is the hero's journey story, but we lost the house. Nobody bought my book. It was just a disaster. Nobody went to the website. I thought it was a lot easier to be a speaker and become a bestseller and kind of be the next Tony Robbins. And it didn't happen. It was a disaster. And had a lot of come to Jesus moments at that time.
I can bet, yeah.
Yeah, trying to figure out what's going on. Luckily, my wife stayed with me. I don't know why, but we worked through the tough times. And a buddy of mine, as I was really failing, I didn't know what I was going to do. My book wasn't selling. Said, "Why don't you do a morning call?" And I was like, "A morning call? Who the heck would listen?" First off, and I'd run through all my money at this time, and entrepreneurs kind of know this feeling. I had no money, so I had to build another website because I wanted to do this morning call, even though I really didn't know what it was going to be. So I got a conference line on freeconferencecall.com. This was probably 2003, 2004. Early days. And so I got a conference line, and I didn't know how to build a website, so I pirated the software Dreamweaver from a torrent or whatever it was back then.
I used Dreamweaver before, yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't afford it, so I had to download it. And I guess I can say that now.
I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm past the incrimination point or whatever they call that.
Yeah.
And I went to like the Barnes & Nobles. Back then they had bookstores, and I bought How to Build a Website in 24 Hours with Dreamweaver. And so I built this really horrible website, and I used to go on MySpace and put this little thing on people's MySpace. That's really dating myself.
Oh, yeah.
Saying, hey, you want to listen to this morning call, come over to morningcoach.com. I had found that URL and sign up. And I had a little email box and everything. And this is like 2004, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so people started coming on the line and listening to me. And I would do a conference at 7:30 and 10:30 for the West Coast. And people started telling their friends. I started selling a few books. We still were broke. But it started to take off a little bit. But then the conference lines couldn't hold anybody else because there was 100 people getting on. And so I was getting emails saying, JB, I can't get on. And I didn't know what to do. So I called freeconferencecall.com, and they wanted like $500 a month for another 100 lines.
Wow.
I couldn't do it, you know?
Yeah.
So again, here I'm a 2-finger typist, broke, don't know anything about the internet, but I did figure out how to put a page up.
Yeah.
And a little thing called podcasting was starting. And so I was like, wow, I think I can figure this out. So I took my computer and literally took the phone next to my mouth, and I used to record in the mic on the computer. You can tell how bad this was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was terrible. And so I would record good morning, and I would do my show. And literally the first couple of shows I would put up on iTunes. I didn't even know what I was doing. I mean, I just was put no entry, no back end of it. I would just stick it up there.
Right.
This is about 2005. And so people started listening, and I started getting complaints. And I was like reading these complaints, and they would say, hey, JB, there's something happening in the background. And so I started listening to them. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't edit anything. But in the background, I picked up the noise from the other people. And in the background, you could hear a tink, a stream, and then a flush.
Oh, no.
Somebody was going to the bathroom in the back of my podcast every day. And they thought it was me. They're like, JB, you can't do the podcast and go to the bathroom at the same time.
Oh, that'd be an interesting show.
It was definitely interesting. And so I thought it was, I don't know if I had that effect on people, but it was really ugly at the beginning. I mean, I knew nothing, but I kept putting it up there. I learned how to edit. I learned how to put a front end and a back end on there. And that was about 200 shows in, which is pretty crazy.
Wow. Was that every day?
Every day.
Wow.
Every day. And Monday through Friday. I didn't do weekends back then.
Okay.
But I finally got it up. And then iTunes, there wasn't many podcasters back then, but they featured me on New Year's on the cover.
Wow.
And I went top 25 on iTunes, and we were getting about 40,000 downloads back in 2007.
Wow.
And we were top 25. And again, me and my crazy intelligence, weren't making any money. There were no sponsors back then, right? And nobody really knew what podcasting was, even though I had this big base, and I had to monetize. The truth was, like, Tim Ferriss was around, Gary Vaynerchuk were around those days. I was speaking at Blog World with those guys. Wow. We were all getting our start at the same time, and they had enough. Gary had his wine business, so he was making money. Tim is just one of the smartest guys I know. He was just a genius. He was getting ready to do 4-hour work week, but he also had Brain Quicken, or that MMA supplement he was doing. I didn't have anything. So I had a big audience with no way to monetize, and no base.
Right.
So I was going broke, and we were building websites at this time. That's all I could do. People were like, well, your podcast is so good. How do you do that? And I said, well, let me build you a website. And so I put a team together, and that's how I was surviving. And in 2009, we were still way up there in the rankings. I mean, you would go into self-help, and when they have the top episodes download, I used to have 5 of the top 10. It was insane. And but I had to change because I was broke. I wasn't making any money. I didn't want to keep building websites. That business was brutal. My dog, who I had for almost 17 years, passed away. And I went to Colombia, and I just said, I got to make a change. And I probably made one of the biggest mistakes of my life financially, but one of the best mistakes of my life as far as building a future for myself. And I went paid. So in 2009, I went from a free podcast to a paid podcast. And over the 40,000 listeners or downloads a day, 12,000 of them had joined my website. And I told them on 2009, I just came back and said, guys, I'm going paid tomorrow. And I had so much fallout from that. I literally cried. I mean, I had 57 negative reviews. People hated me. I got one death threat in the mail. Literally, somebody. Yeah, it was one of the darkest days in my life. But what I learned then was 1,200 people came with me for $20 a month. And so the big mistake was, if I would have kept going, I probably would have millions and millions of downloads. I can't even imagine from 2009 till today how many people would be listening to Morning Coach, but I couldn't. I had to pay the bills. And so 1,200 people came with me, which was great, $25,000. For me, that was millions of dollars back then. But it probably cost me millions of dollars to do that. But in all honesty, I had no choice. So for the last... since 2000 to up till 2017, I've been paid, and I literally just went back to free about 6 months ago. I still have a membership where I do courses and stuff, but the free one now is out, and we're up to 5,000 downloads a day, and we're starting to get the momentum back to do that. And the reason I switched the model is because it's time now to go back to putting it out there, and I've built enough revenue streams now that I'm not so dependent on it that I can survive with my family. So that's where I'm at today. It's going great. I signed with Hay House. I got a Hay House book out. I'm speaking at the Affiliate Summit coming up for 5,500 people after Joe Theismann. I'm pretty excited about that. And life is great. But I've made a lot of mistakes. I kicked myself sometimes. If I'd have done what Gary and Tim did and just stayed free and kept building and building and building, I'd probably have millions of people. But I really can't complain too much. I got a great life. But it's been a challenge all the way over these past 10 years, trying to make decisions and hustle to keep the business going.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, I mean, there was a ton of ton of ups and downs, and when they were down, they were pretty hard downs. And like you said, I mean, having a death threat and that type, you start to get haters, and that's no fun. I mean, even with with our little show here, I mean, you're going to get haters, right? You get people the minute that you put a promotion out there or you say that you're an affiliate for a product, all of a sudden you've sold out. And that can be a dark time for you, and especially if you're not surrounding yourself with people that are that understand that, and they're going to be able to talk you kind of off the ledge in a sense. And that's why I think it's so important to surround yourself with like-minded people, whether it's in e-commerce, whether it's in podcasting, whatever it is in business or in life. And I just think that it's really, really important. So what I really want to highlight here, though, for people, and the reason why I wanted to have you come on, because you are the self-help guy to me. I mean, you've just done it. You're good at it. You really understand, I think, the brain, a lot of it. And I think it's just from you doing it for so long and then understanding how people, how they actually act upon certain things. And one of the biggest things I think and that's kind of what I want to drill into here is like, you had some of those low moments. What allowed you, what gave you, what did you do to get yourself out of the funk and back into forward motion? I think that's the big one, because I mean, I'm going to tell everyone listening right now, you are going to fail at some point. It's going to happen. It's a matter of how you deal with it is what's going to matter most. And I want to hear your thoughts on that, JB.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my biggest blessing, is that I have to do morning coach every day because it's who I've become. I mean, I actually did it for myself. I don't know how spiritual people are, but I believe that was part of my, education, is that I had to do this every single day. So I had to read the books. I had to study. I had to figure out, because people were counting on me, and so the consistency of doing something every day really made a difference. And I can tell you that one of the things that I do, and I think everybody in business should have this, is an avatar. I had a letter come in from a lady who listened, every day, and said that she had moved to Europe with her husband and had 2 beautiful children, started a great life, and things were going amazing. But then he became abusive, and he started to beat her. And she went in the closet, and that's when she found me. Was like in the closet with her laptop, searching for something positive. And she heard me do a podcast on staying strong, and she actually sent me a letter telling me all this. She had 2 children, and she stayed there for the children, but then he started to abuse the children. So she literally listened to me on one of my podcasts talking about being strong, and took the kids, took what money she could out of the bank, and moved to California and started to rebuild her life, and listened to me every day. In fact, in the letter, she said, I kept paying you your $20, So, and at the end of the letter, she said, and I'm just sitting here on the beach. I just finished a marathon. I'm with my 2 beautiful kids. I love you for helping me change my life. So for me, that aspect of understanding that person's out there and I need to be there for her. There's somebody listening. I need to get better. I need to get, I need to understand the psychology. I need to understand how to get people through the tough times. That's what really helped me, was to have her out there in my life and understand that there's other people like that listening. And so for me, the consistent mindset is so important, even if you don't get it every day. I mean, believe me, I'm the guy that does this, and there are days that I don't want to get up and do what I have to do. But when I think that there's other people out there that need it, it keeps me motivated. But for people that are struggling with that, it's the consistency that you do over time that really works. It's not the one weekend course that you go and you bend bars and you walk on fire, and that's all good, but that gives you a suntan, and that suntan wears off. You need to do something consistently every day. That's the only way to get the mental really picture to flip you from 51% negative to 51% positive, because that's all it takes. Most people are tending negative, and then when you get something even negative come into your life, you jump up to 55%. I just want you to stay 51% positive. You can stay 49% negative, but let's keep that mental pathway positive.
And so, okay, so maybe you can give us a tip or two for that. So let's say, for example, that happens, right? Like, I'm feeling excited because I often see this happen where, including myself, like you get excited about something. So for us, our podcast and our community is really built around e-commerce. We sell on Amazon, we sell on our own websites, we do all of that stuff, and it's marketing and it's all exciting stuff. Like we just love it. It's almost like a game in a sense too, but also a game that you can be paid for, if you have good products and services and all that fun stuff. And I know that you understand that as well. But we get on this high, right? It's like everything's exciting, everything's going to work technically, right? I'm doing the air quotes. Everything's going to work. And then all of a sudden, you have to actually start doing the work. And as you're doing the work, you lose some of that drive because you're not seeing the results quick enough. So what is your tip, or how would you coach someone that it's going to take them time to get to a result where they can see a return in a sense? Or it's like weight loss, the same thing, right? It's going to take you time before you actually see some pounds off of the scale. But in this case, in business, if we don't see $1 come in and we've put all this work in, how do you keep yourself going so you can eventually see that $1?
It's all about the reframe and the why. So there's 2 things, right? So you have to always have a big reason why, and you have to constantly ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if you don't have a good reason for it, you need to really check to see why you're doing it. And a lot of times making money isn't the biggest reason. It really isn't. It's not always about money, even though it seems like it at the beginning, because what happens if you don't make money, you go chase another butterfly. Yeah. And then you chase another butterfly and you chase another butterfly. So you got to discover a deeper reason why, and then you got to constantly reframe. So I have a lot of people come to me and say, JB, I hate my job. My business isn't working, whatever it is. And I say, well, if it's your job, then what I want you to do is think about the first day that you went in, because you were excited at one time. What changed? What changed? Well, I got into the politics. No, but you were excited the first time you came in. And with business owners, this is key. And I know a lot of your listeners are business owners, is I will tell them, take this weekend, whatever day it is, if it's Tuesday, when you go this weekend, if it's Friday, take this weekend and I want you to just clear your mind and I want you to think that you just bought your business on Friday and start thinking about what you're going to do differently Monday as an owner, a new owner of the business, not the old owner of the business, if you were a consultant or you just bought the business. And it's amazing how that reframe can change everything. So if you have a good why that's driving you and you're like, this is what I'm going to do every day. And for me, it's that woman in Europe, who was getting beat. I mean, that's going to get me up and make me do my podcast every day. And the other thing is, if I reframe, and I do this all the time, I'll say, okay, JB, take the weekend, go away and come back, start from scratch. What do we need to do to make this business work if I just bought it? And a lot of times that really changes the way that you view your business or the thing that you're working on.
I love that. And I've talked about that a lot, about your why and figuring that out, because for me personally, I go back to the days of when, I had to figure out a change, like for me personally, like I was working, and this is going back, I'm 40, going to be 45. This is when I was like 20, 21 years old, first married, had my first child, and I wasn't home. I was working as a construction worker. So I was working long hours, 60 plus hours a week. And I was just feeling like I wasn't able to live my life. Like I was just working more than I was actually enjoying. And I didn't think it was fair to me or to my family. So again, I established my why very quickly, but I'll be the first one to admit, like I chased a lot of those butterflies, right? I chased a lot of, I did the Amway thing. Yeah, it's true. I did it. I did the Amway thing. I got sucked into the Amway thing. But you know what? I learned a lot of things from that Amway, networking and meeting and reading certain business books that I wouldn't have read otherwise. So I don't look at it as a negative experience. It was a place that got me to where I am today. But I always had that why of what I wanted. And to some people, maybe it's not kids and maybe it's not family. Maybe it's something else. You just want to travel. You don't want to have to check into that job or whatever. But I agree 100%. If you get that why clear, like crystal clear, you're gonna stay up an hour later when the kids go to bed, because now you can work on your business because you need to do that. And when you don't feel like doing it, you're gonna be brought back to the why. So I totally believe that. Now, let me ask you this: what can we do if, like, for me personally, like I'm a visual person too. Like I can have all these thoughts and everything, and then all of a sudden it starts to become a mess in my head. How can we organize our thoughts or come up with a better way to almost systematize like our thoughts, or so we can have a plan? Is there anything that you advise any of your listeners or any of your students? Like, what can we do to kind of get ourselves feeling a little bit more like a clear head?
Oh, Scott, it's funny you bring that up, because my last book that I wrote with Hay House was called The Sacred Six, right?
Yeah.
Really is about this idea that, it comes back from Ivy Lee back in the day, talking to Schwab, who ran the steel industries, about a concept of writing down the 6 things you're going to accomplish and focusing on one and not going to number 2 until number 1's done. This was back in 1910, 1920, before we had texts and cell phones and computers and Facebook and everything else, right?
Yeah.
So the Sacred Six is a very simple principle. It's like, let's get 6 projects you're going to work on. Don't add any more. Clear the clutter. And then break it down to some basic tasks you're going to do every day and focus on those tasks one at a time. So it's a great resource, but it really slows you down. So the idea is, let's not have more than 6 things going on at any given time. And if you're going to bring something in, you got to replace it. And that's a scary thing. You got to really make sure it's something you're going to replace. So that's how you can kind of clear that clutter in your mind, is slow down. Just get 6 things that you're working on. And if you have more than 6, you got to let some things go. You got to learn to say no.
Yeah, that's a big one though, right? Saying no. Huge. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a big one. It's a big one for me. I mean, since the podcast and stuff, and I'm sure with yourself as well, opportunities come at me like all over the place. And it's like, man, that looks good. Oh, that would be good. Oh, that sounds fun. And it's like, how do you turn them off? Well, one thing that I've been able to do, and, now that I've kind of instructed my team to basically also shout at me, is like, listen, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no, right? If
Correct.
It's not going to, if it's not going to fill the mission that I'm going after, you know what I mean? If it's not going to fulfill my life, or it's going to take away from my life, then I'm probably going to say no. So there's all those different things that I have to think about. And I think that that's a big one, is to say no. It's hard to say no. Sometimes it's saying no to someone that just wants to go out to grab a bite to eat, but you know that you have something on your sacred sixth that you're only going to have enough time to do something, and you already had it scheduled. You might need to say no to that. You know what I mean? But there's just a ton that goes into that, and I think that's a big takeaway for a lot of people is saying no and saying yes to the right things. But then again, how do you know what the right things are? And I think, like you said, if you come up with that list, it's going to make it a lot clearer.
Yeah, you have to have a plan. I mean, I one of the things that I always fall back on, let's go to mindset, right, is that, they were talking to I believe it was Tiger Woods when he was doing really good, right? And he was cranking. We all know Tiger's had his fall from grace, right?
Sure.
But he said something that I thought was great when he was dominating. Somebody said, when you're in the lead, right, when you're in the lead and somebody's coming up from behind and you can see that you're 2 strokes ahead and they're starting to catch you, what's your thought? Do you get nervous? And he's like, no, I just trust my training. And as entrepreneurs and as business owners, and as just regular people, and anybody listening to your show is way above any regular person because they're getting education and there's somebody that's different anyways, right? We have to trust our training. And I don't think we do enough. We don't trust our intuition. We don't trust ourselves. I personally fall back on that the greater good is conspiring for me, that I really believe that there is this good energy that is conspiring for me. No matter what's going on, I just got to trust myself. I got to trust my training. I just got to keep going. And sometimes I got to say no because I know that that's going to get in the way of where I'm going. So for me, the big thing that I wish more people would do, especially when they're going through challenges, is to respect the challenge, to understand that it's part of your growth, to understand that you're going to get through it. The greater good is conspiring for you, and that you just got to keep moving forward. It may not, like for me, if my book would have sold back in the day, for example, let's just say when we lost our house, Get Out of Neutral, that first book I wrote, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be doing Morning Coach. That failure led me to the greatest thing in my life, and now, not keeping it free and going paid gave me a great lifestyle. I didn't kill it. I didn't hit this massive home run as some of the people that were doing the same things at that time did, but it's setting me up for something even different. And I personally feel that my training, I have to trust it, and I have to trust the people that, that the greater good is inspiring for me. So I don't think we trust enough. And I think that's a core issue.
Yeah, no, and I love it how you kind of traced it back to your story, and like if that book took off, like you wouldn't be probably here right now talking to me. Everything would have changed. It's kind of like going back to the night that I wasn't going to go out as a young 20-year-old kid because I had worked late and I was tired and I was under 21 at the time, and you had to be 21 to get into a bar, and I wasn't going to go out. My buddies dragged me out. Well, just so happens my wife was there that night that I'm married to now for over 23 years. So you know what I mean? Like it's just, if that never happened, man, I'd never have these 3 amazing kids. I'd never be where I am. I mean, she's a huge cheerleader of mine. Like it's just crazy to think of that stuff. But it's hard. It's really hard when you're in the middle of a failure. I think it's like so hard to get yourself changing the mindset unless you have people in your life that are helping you with that. And I think, again, that goes with surrounding yourself with good people, which actually, that'd be a good question for you really quickly. Like, what if, we've all heard this, right? You are the average of the 5 people that you hang around. And I believe in that. But there's going to be people in your life that are not going to fall within that. How do you, like, what if it's your family members and stuff? Like, what do you suggest that people do? You just cut them people off from your life, or you just limit the amount? Like, what's some strategies there? I mean, I know there's going to be people listening, and there's actually people in my life that I have to limit the amount of time that I'm around because it's just not who I am. Like, what do you do there?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when I first had my dream of being a speaker, before I got married, before any of this, like in 2000, I went back to my roommate and I went to a Florida Speakers Association meeting, and I said, this is like I was young, and I had my roommate, and I said, man, I want to be a speaker. This is what I want to do. I'm going to motivate people. And he literally looked at me and he said, JB, you're in aerospace. You're an idiot. Who would listen to you?
Ooh.
That's what he told me, out of love. Like out of love, like why would you leave your career?
Yeah.
And that was that was straight from his heart. And I mean, he meant that from his heart. Like he really cared about me.
Yeah.
And I listened to him. I stayed in aviation for 2 years. I didn't go back to that Florida Speakers Association meeting. I didn't go back to that group. I quit it. Wow. And so, you got to be careful of those people around you that love you and are trying to help you, right? They're trying to help you, but do they really have the best interest at hand? And that's why I really feel you got to have your heart and your belief where you believe in what you're doing. That's why the why's got to be strong enough, and you got to have that intuition, because we're always going to have doubters. You're going to have haters. Look, people in this country, and we're, specifically in the United States, I know we broadcast all over the world, but people in this country want you to be successessful, just not more successful than them. It's just the way it is.
It's true, man. It's so true.
And so it's hard. And that's why as you grow, you get around people that have been there and you respect each other. And that's why the cream rises to the top. Can I swear or no on this show?
You can. We'd have to bleep you.
Okay, let's do this. The cream rises to the top, but poop floats.
There you go.
So we got to be cautious, because you're going to get some of those people around you. And what I do is all about posture and presence. And I think this is why your nose got to be very strong, and you got to have energy. You got to move like you need to go. You got to stay fit and get healthy. You got to have that energy that people are like, man, you may not be there yet, but you're going there. And I've always been that way, even when I didn't have anything. I moved a little faster than anybody else. I think that's from the magic of thinking big, or somewhere I got that. I walk a little faster. I talk a little faster. I move a little faster. And those are the things you can do around those negative people. Because here's what happens. Let me tell you this dynamic, okay? At first, they're going to ridicule you. That's what happens. They're going to say, you're an idiot. Why are you doing this? There's no way. I mean, that's what I had happen. All my friends I drank with and partied with thought I was an idiot. Why? How can you be a motivational speaker? Then they fear you because they're scared. They're like, oh my gosh, he's really doing it. And I went through that. And then what happens is they really respect you and they want to be like you. And that same roommate that told me never to become a speaker, hired me to come to speak to his company.
That's great. Nice.
That's what happens. So when you have people around you that are scared of you or afraid of you, you got to just take that as motivation and use it to go after it.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk like with energy a lot, and I hear you talk about that on your show a lot, and even just the way that you speak can kind of put you in a certain state and all of that stuff, and people that you listen to, and it's funny because I've listened to some podcasts where they'll have a guest on and they're really excited and kind of talking like this, and immediately I'm taken down a level, right? Yeah. And you and I, it was funny when we were talking, in Florida when I was there, and you were like, it's like everything's up an octave. Like it's almost like you're up, I'm up. The more you get up, I get up, and it's like there's like this positive energy, and then you feed off. But when you get people that are around you, you start to see that they're bringing themselves up just a little bit too. Maybe like you said, they're going to walk a little bit faster because they got to keep up. It's funny when I'm walking in, whether it's a grocery store or whatever, I'm always usually leading my family, and I have to slow back a little bit because it's just, I'm on a mission, man. I'm like in there to get the bread or whatever, right? Like it's just, I'm going, and I'll look back and I'm like, do I really walk that fast? It's like, I am though. I'm high strung. I'm wired a little bit differently that way. But I also think that I've kind of trained myself to be that way in a sense. And it's now all of a sudden it's just second nature. And I've also hung around a lot of people that are like that. And I usually resonate with those people. So my suggestion for anyone out there is definitely surround yourself with people that have higher energy, because that's just going to bring you up a notch. It's almost like playing up a level in basketball or baseball or a sport. You're naturally going to elevate your game. And I totally believe that. All right. So I also want to dig into, because I think it's a big one for people to hear all this, and it sounds all great and everything, but some people are just so deep into a funk. Like, what's like the first thing that you would say that you would advise them to do to get out of that funk? The one thing, and I don't know, you've probably read The Compound Effect, right, Darren Hardy? Yep. Great book. That, I'll tell you what, that book right there, I'll go back to every now and then, because that really pulled me out of a funk. Probably around 3 years ago, probably just before I was starting my podcast, and I was kind of in between, like what I was going to do, and just you know how I think as an entrepreneur you always go through those times when you're starting to rethink where you are and where you want to go and what direction and what pivot and all that stuff. And I think I was going through one of those times, and I listened to that book. I listened to it. I didn't read it. I actually do a lot of audiobooks, and I listened to it, and I'll tell you what, that changed the way I think. And it really made me aware of how small, tiny little changes make big changes over time. So maybe you can speak to that, because I know you're a big believer in that type of stuff too. So getting us out of this funk, if we're having, like, let's say for us, we just launched a product on Amazon. We thought it was going to do really good and it bombed. And now we're deflated. So now what?
Yep. So my first step is to get into a health kick. I know that sounds crazy, but it correlates to my bank account. Every time that I get into a funk, I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat better. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start getting myself back. And it
100%.
just seems like every time when I get into a funk, and I do, it's because I've been skipping working out, I'm not eating good, and mentally I'm not sleeping good. And so I know I'm not a health guy. I'm not a trainer. I'm not here to teach people about health, but that's the first thing I do, right? Is get that going. Then try to get some positives in your mind. Read. You just said a great book. Listen to positive things. Listen to podcasts. There's a couple things. We talked about getting around other people because you start to build the belief. But one of the big things that I do consistently is I read bios. I read bios of rock bands because if you really read like Guns N' Roses, and it's fun to read about the parties, but man, did they go through hell to get where they are today. And so you read bios of other people and you're like, man, I'm like that. And it takes kind of mystique off of success, because you start to see that everybody has failures. And everybody has multiple failures. And so my suggestion would be go on a health kick. Go grab a bio of somebody that you really respect and appreciate. And if you're a music fan like me, read a bio of your favorite band. There's tons of them out there. And then you'll start to believe, and then start to get some positive stuff in your life. Really become a personal development junkie. Every successful, like super successful person that I've met over the years, and maybe because I'm in the field, but everybody that I've met, they're all personal development junkies.
Yep.
They're readers, they're listeners, they're always consuming something positive. I know, believe me, I was that guy at one point too. Like, I don't need that. When I started Morning Coach, I'm like, I don't need a coach.
Yeah.
Who's going to coach me?
Yeah.
My 28-year-old self thought I needed to make millions of dollars, and and I couldn't help one person. Right now, I do have $1 million clients that have multi-million-dollar businesses. But my 20-year-old self couldn't help that. So get over yourself. That's a big thing. Realize you're going to fail. Lose the ego. Be a little humble. Get back to the gym or whatever you need to do to get yourself healthier. Ground yourself in some great personal development. And then the final thing that I would say is the gratitude aspect of it too. Be thankful that you have this life and the gifts that you have. It's a great time to be alive. It truly is.
Oh, you know what? I love that you said that, because, that's something. And as I'm getting older, it's like I'm starting to realize, and I never thought I would. And that's how the mind is so strange sometimes, right? Like when I was in my 30s, I'm like, people are turning 40 and they're like, having this little, oh my gosh, I'm getting older. And I'm like, I don't care. When I'm 40, it's not going to bother me. Well, guess what? I hit 40, it started bothering me. And I was trying to fight it, man. I was trying to fight it. I'm like, it ain't going to bother me. Now I was 42. And then now I'm going to be 45. I'm like, well, next year I'm going to be over the hump. I'm going to be going towards 50. And then after that, it's going to be, and I'm like, damn, and it's like, it can mentally twist you up like really, really bad.
Yeah, I'm 48, bro. Yeah. It goes fast. I feel 25, but at 48, I don't even remember, I don't remember the 90s. Dude, I don't even know. Did that 10-year period even exist? Because I have maybe 2 memories of that whole entire decade.
It went quick. It went really, really quick. And, so I agree with you that, it's like, number one, and I've fallen into that trap many times where I think the busier I am, the more that I'm trying harder to achieve. When actually a lot of times if I slow down, starting with getting healthy, and then from there, maybe even doing a little bit of meditation, and maybe then just doing a little bit of, like you said, reading or listening, or, maybe even visualizing and that type of, like, once I start to make that part of my daily routine, and I think that's the big one, is making it part of your routine, or else it never happens. And then I just everything else kind of starts to click. But I find myself even now, I went from, let's see, we're talking probably about 4 months ago, I got back into my health kick and I was doing awesome, and I'm still doing awesome, but I started falling off the rails a little bit because I was getting busy. And then I'm like, wait a minute, whoa. You gotta commit to the morning workout like you've been doing. You have to commit to eating the right way. You have to commit to taking your walks, because I take walks all throughout the day, take my breaks. And the minute that I don't do that stuff, I start to go off the rails. And it's so important to understand that it does start with that, because if you're not healthy there, and I mean healthy just mindset too, then it's going to be a lot harder when you start coming across some of these obstacles and these ups and downs. big time.
100%. And you know what's so great about life is that no matter what happened yesterday, really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you can start up tomorrow. You can start up to just after listening to us and saying, you know what, I'm going to start over. I'm going to get recharged about my business. I'm going to get recharged about myself. I'm going to start believing again. And that's the beautiful thing about life. As long as you're not 7 feet under, you still got a chance.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason to give up. The worst thing that I see in the world is apathy. And there's a lot of people that just give up. And look, that just drives me nuts. I'm a fighter, and you got to fight, and if you're down, man, it's awesome. Start over again. Believe me, I ate dog food at one time in my life. I'm not going to get in the hero's journey, but I did. And that was rough. But being there, I recognized that, hey, it wasn't so bad. Actually, back then, I remember growing and developing, that was a pretty good part of my life. It changed me. And so just recognize that, you know what, you go to bed at night, you kind of die. You do. And you wake up and it's a whole new opportunity. And if you just change your mindset and your approach to that, what a great way to live. It's about experiences. Whatever comes my way, I'm gonna bring it into my life. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna savor it, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm just keep fighting the good fight every day.
Love it. All right, so we're gonna wrap up, but I want to ask you. So, like right now, what has you all fired up? I mean, you're fired up anyway, but like, what has you most fired up right now about just where you're at and what the future looks like for you and like what are you up to, man?
Well, I'll be candid. I teach people how to find the why, and I teach people how to help people. And, I built the 4-hour work week with my podcast. I had a membership site, and was making 20, 30, 40,000 a month. And, I took up a lot of golf, and I hired a coach that was 28 years old at the beginning of the year. And he said, JB, the 4-hour work week goal for you is a bunch of BS. And I asked him, why don't I feel so great? And he says, you got to do what you love. And here's a guy that I teach it, right? I've taught it for 10 years. And this is why sometimes you need somebody else to help you. And I sat back and I said, what really gives me pure joy? What do I love more than anything? And I really found out that it was to help people. Like, I know that sounds cheesy. I know it does. But it's like, man. And so for 10, all I've been doing is building a business for 4 hours. You know what I mean? Trying to have a 4-hour work week. That's all. And I accomplished that. And that was my goal. But this year, for the first time, I finally have a real why, and it's to help as many people as I can. And it's just, I'm having so much fun. And now it's like I'm doing the things I probably should have did 10 years ago. I'm getting out speaking more. I'm connecting with people. I'm putting the podcast out again for free. I'm doing some courses to generate revenue. But at the end of the day, it's just that I'm just asking myself, am I helping people? And boy, do I get so much joy from that is better than the money that I was, or the 4-hour work week or any of that stuff, or being on the golf course. I'm just pumped because I'm really doing it now. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And it's just great how you're so transparent with that. It's like, people would look at you and go, oh, wow, you started this podcast and you turned it into a paid podcast. And it was the life. And then you were like, all right, something's missing. I gotta tweak some things. And now you've readjusted a little bit, but you then reevaluated your why, and your why might have changed. And it's funny because a lot of people say that, and you hear it when you're not there, you don't really get it. But a lot of people say, yeah, once you get to a certain number, you're not happy. Even though you got there, you're not happy, and you'll want more, or something's gonna change, and you just don't believe them. You're like, well, screw you, because I want to be there. Like, I want to be making whatever $10,000 a month and be able to take care of my family and not have to go to a job. Like, I would love that. And then you get there, and then you start to go, oh wow, wait a minute, that person was kind of right. It's like, I'm here, and I still have some struggles and some obstacles in my brain because now I'm thinking about what's next. So that's the next hurdle. But I believe that that's your growth, right? It's like, I think Tony Robbins said it, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I believe in that. But, for you, especially, people would say, wow, man, you've been at this so long, everything's got to be just hunky dory. And you're like, no, it's not. It's like, there's more for me. And I'm starting to experience that as well. It's like, now that I have a platform and I have reach and people I'm able to meet in person, it makes me realize that this is bigger than just me. And I have like a responsibility now to actually go out there and try to help and, improve other people's lives. So I'm with you, brother. And I'm so glad that we met, because if I didn't go to Seller Summit and if you didn't agree to come on over and hang out, we would never have met, and you wouldn't have been here right now. And hopefully from this conversation, people are going to run over and check out your podcast. So why don't you do that? Why don't you let people know how they can listen to more of you and all of your morning thoughts? No problem. Yeah, we have morningcoach.com. Real simple. I've had almost 3,000 episodes now, but I have iPhone apps, Windows apps, Android apps. You can get them at morningcoach.com or go on iTunes. It's everywhere. Morningcoach.com. Pretty simple.
Cool, man. I'm going to link that up in the show notes as well. And why don't you just give people maybe one last little bit of advice with mindset?
Well, I think the key is, we all know that thoughts are things, and it's important that we think positive when we put that energy out there. But the beliefs are the critical thing. If we can really believe, beliefs make them so. So thoughts are things, beliefs make them so. But the key thing is action solidify the belief. So thoughts are things, belief makes them so, and then your action solidifies the belief. So get out there and take some action.
I freaking love it, man. I love it. All right, JB, this has been awesome. I know I'm going to have you back on the show because I just love hanging out with you anyway. So we're going to get you back on. We're going to have to do an update anyway because I know that you're going to be doing some amazing things. And I know a lot of people are going to head over and start listening to your podcast. And I know that I'm a big fan now as well. So, man, I want to thank you and I appreciate it. And I'll be talking to you soon, brother.
Sweet, brother. Thank you.
Okay, so was I kidding or what? JB is awesome. Love JB. I'm going to definitely have him back on the show because you know what? We always need a little kickstart, a little reminder, a little reboot. He's my reboot guy. He is going to be my reboot guy. He doesn't even know it right now. But JB, if you're listening to this back, you are going to be back on just to give me a reboot, just to give me a little kick in the butt. Love it. And I'm so glad that I was able to meet JB and then also now share him with you because I really believe that that's what it's about. Introducing you to people that inspire me, that help me with life balance, mindset, all of that stuff that I'm working on constantly, I want to share with you because I do believe that that makes a huge, huge difference. So definitely go check out morningcoach.com. That's where you'll find JB every single morning, by the way. And you got to listen to the actual good morning message that he gives every single day. And it's got to be a hard one to hit every morning, especially if it's early. So definitely go check that out. His book is The Sacred Six, and I have it right in my hand right now. Love the book. I'm actually about halfway through it. The simple step-by-step process for focusing your attention and recovering your dreams. Love it. So definitely you're going to want to probably grab that. I'll drop a link to that inside the show notes, theamazingseller.com/399. You may even want to bookmark this one or save this one somewhere, this episode that is, and come back to it when you're having a little bit of a problem, a little bit of an issue with that old mindset or head trash, as we like to call it. All right. So guys, that is going to wrap up this episode. I hope that you're going to leave today, as JB says, with some extra additional energy that you didn't start the day with or whatever time of the day it is. And you can carry that energy through to the next day and then the next day. All right. So get out there and make it happen. And as always, remember, I'm here for you. I believe in you and I am rooting for you. But you have to. Come on, say it with me. Say it loud. Say it proud. Take action. Have an awesome, amazing day. And I'll see you right back here on the next episode.